The history of Anne Bonny. Anne Bonny is known as the most famous female pirate of the Caribbean. The exact dates of her supremacy are unknown, but she was thought to be powerful from around 1718 to 1720 under the command of Captain Calico Jack Rackham. Being a female in the 1800s could not have been easy, but Anne found a way to fool all of the other pirates in order to prove she was just as tough as they were. Anne was born around 1697, according to many historians, in the town of County Cork, Ireland. Her birth was the result of lawyer William Cormac having an affair with his servant woman, Mary Brennan. William's wife made his adultery public, so after losing his reputation, William, with his new wife and newborn child, decided to leave Ireland and start over in America. They found a new home in Charleston, South Carolina, where William started his legal career again. They then bought a plantation. When Anne was still a teen, her mother died, leaving her to take care of her father and the plantation. Even though a young southern plantation girl doesn't sound like a hardcore pirate, there are accounts that she attacked people as a teenager. There is one story that she murdered a young servant girl with a knife, and another where she hospitalized a man for trying to sexually assault her. Despite her father being a successful lawyer and merchant, Anne fell in love at the age of 16 with a poor pirate named James Bonny. Her father was very against this marriage, and he kicked her out of his house. She was expected to be a respectful woman, not a woman that was married to a small-time pirate. After leaving Charleston, they moved to New Providence, a pirate hideout town in the Bahamas. After having trouble supporting their marriage, James became a pirate informer for the governor. This upset Anne because she had many friends that were pirates that she did not want turned in. Since Anne became so unhappy with her husband's occupation, she started sleeping around with other men in Nassau, which led her to meeting Captain Calico Jack Rackham. They quickly fell in love with each other, but according to the governor, she had to stay with James. Jack had offered to buy her from James, but they just decided to sneak off together one night while James would not be able to notice. Captain Calico Jack Rackham was a popular pirate of the time. Rackham was able to acquire his ship by plundering it from Captain Charles Vane. He stuck to attacking coastal shipping and rarely ventured far out into the Caribbean. Even though he wasn't very successful, it is said that he still lived an extravagant life by indulging in buying finer things. Rackham is even credited with being the pirate that started the famous skull and crossbones flag. On his ship, she joined as a regular crew member, but she was disguised as a man. They both knew that the shipmates would never allow a female to join the ship, so she always fought alongside them dressed in men's clothing. According to stories, she was able to fight, swear, and drink just as well as a man could. She became an expert with a pistol and a cutlass, something that any man would have never imagined possible by a woman in the 1700s. You would think that one woman disguised as a male on a pirate ship is crazy, but Anne was not alone. On Rackham's ship, she met Mary Read, who soon became her partner in crime. Rackham, Read, and Bonny all became a powerful pirate trio who wreaked havoc among the seas. It is said that Bonny and Read were so close that at one point they may have had a relationship together. By now, it was around 1718 to 1719, and Anne had become pregnant. Once they found out, Anne was left in Cuba while Rackham continued his life of piracy. Anne gave birth in Cuba, but what happened to the child remains a mystery. Some people say the child died during birth, while others say it was abandoned or given to a family to grow up with in Cuba. Shortly after the birth, Anne returned to her life of piracy along with Rackham and Read. In 1720, everything changed for Bonny, Read, and Rackham. Rackham's ship, the Revenge, was hunted down by the governor of the Bahamas, who hired an ex-pirate to get the job done in exchange for bounty. This man was Captain Barnett, the commander of the British Navy at the time. Barnett happened to come across Rackham's ship at the right time when they were anchored and drunk. The crew had been celebrating the night before and were all passed out under the deck. When Captain Barnett attacked them, it is said that Rackham cowardly hid under the deck with the crew, while Mary Read and Anne fought to keep their ship. Being overpowered by a British naval ship, they were all captured and brought in by the captain to Port Royal on November 18, 1720. Upon their capture, Mary and Anne were forced to admit their secret, revealing they were both in fact women. To make matters worse for them, they were both pregnant at the time of the capture. Lucky for them, their trials were prolonged until they gave birth. All three were found guilty and they were to be hanged. The men were hung while Bonny and Reed were still in jail. According to historians, on Captain Rackham's final day, he asked to see Anne before he was sent to the gallows. Her response was, "I'm sorry to see you here, Jack, but if you'd have fought like a man, you needn't hang like a dog." Mary escaped being hung as a pirate, but instead received punishment by dying of a fever in jail. Although the fate of Anne Bonny is unclear, everyone agrees that she was not hung. Most say that her father forgave her for running away and went to the Bahamas to ransom her, allowing her to go back to Charleston to live with him. In this case, she returned to a normal life, living as a Southern plantation woman, and completely left her life of piracy behind. There, she married a man named Joseph Burleigh, and they had 8 children, living comfortably in South Carolina until her death in the 1780s. What type of person was Anne?
She was a cutthroat, menacing pirate. Anne could curse, fight, and was more of a diehard than most of her crewmates. Even before she became a pirate, she was still a rough plantation woman.
What led Anne into a life of piracy?
Some say she was just a tomboy that never grew up, but most historians concur that her running away from her father was a way of rebelling against him.
Why did Anne and Mary have an instant connection when they met?
In the 18th century, there were a handful of female pirates. The chances that two would stumble across each other were highly slim, yet Mary and Anne still happened to meet. Finding someone that was also a woman with the same passion as her is most likely why they had such a great relationship.
What type of impact did Anne leave on the world?
Although she never really became a huge accomplishment as a pirate, she managed to influence many women culturally. She is seen as a strong feminist who broke the statu quo of women being powerless, homebodies that could do nothing but cook and clean, and went out and did what she wanted to when she wanted to do this.